I didn't know they were going to start with MJF and Cole. I'm glad they did now, because any other part of this program would have led to viewer attrition. And in a world title eliminator match, which we did not hear about until it was coming to the ring, at least I didn't, but we just had the talk about non-title matches and how to use them in wrestling. And then they have a non-title match, and the premise is simple. If Cole wins, then he gets a title match with MJF. And we've mentioned that that's something that's been done in wrestling going back decades and decades and decades. They got the concept. They just failed to pull it off in execution. Not the match, but the point of the whole goddamn thing. Because apparently MJF and to some extent Adam Cole would have been in charge of the match, but Tony was still in charge of the finish. I will elaborate as we go further. For this one, Brian, let's declare a moratorium on talking about Adam Cole's physique, because it's not like we haven't mentioned it, and I think we've said everything we can say. And it's not changed.
It's not to say it's not a legitimate issue, but for the critique of this match, let's forego the conversation about it.
Yes, just because we'll get off on so many fucking tangents. He can work and he can talk. And when he's in the ring with somebody that doesn't encourage him to do all the 20 million things that he knows how to do over and over, Adam is fine. And we've seen, as with the Garganos in NXT or with his Buckaroo friends, he tends to go too far. But we've never said he wasn't talented. And I don't know. There has to be more to the story physically, is all I'm going to say. So I'm not going to dwell on it right now. But he did get some tan. Did you notice that?
Well, I don't know if I noticed that, because MJF had more of some tan or whatever you want to call it on him than I've ever seen anyone.
Well, no, that's the thing is Adam came out. He wasn't fishy white. He had something sprayed, or he's been in the sun at some point. So then MJF followed him right out looking like the love child of George Hamilton and Ricardo Montalban. And was so dark that lightning bugs were following him around in the daytime. But they're listening.
Do you think that's a good move for a heel, though? Like, not just having a tan, but having like a Jersey Shore tan, whatever you want to call it.
I think he should have the eye goggle marks better, though. Like completely white circles around his eyes, like a reverse raccoon. That would be heat. So they rang the bell for this match at 3 minutes into the show. They didn't waste any time. They knew they were going to have a big audience handed to them by the Big Bang, and they wanted to capitalize on it. That was smart. And the crowd was up, and they were ready to see this. And that's what this match was uncharacteristic of AEW television or anything. It was so good in so many different ways that we're actually going to critique it like a legitimate match instead of make fun of it, because it deserves that. Most AEW programming does not. However, there were still some things that I felt were unnecessary or, potentially derailed what they could have done if they'd not done those things. MJF looks great. Again, they started out with wrestling, and MJF got heat with his attitude and his facial expressions and the way he swaggers and walks around. And he is doing something that I haven't seen a lot of heels do since the days when Lawler was a heel in his younger days and could really go, in that the way he sells, the way he reacts, as well as the way that he taunts somebody when he's in control, the way that he looks at the fans in such a flippant, disrespectful manner, and the whole 9 yards. Whether he's on offense or defense, he keeps your attention. It's primarily his match and the other guys in there with him. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense, yes.
And a lot of guys can't do that. So even if he's getting a shit kicked out of him, it still looks like he's the guy you're supposed to be watching, and the other guys filling the rest of it in. When he took a walk in the crowd, MJF, he goes out there to slow it down, piss the people off. He knocked the fan's hat off. I wish he had not done that. not because it's considered assault in some states, but because the guy wasn't upset about it. He laughed. He was happy. He turned to his friends. Look what just happened to me. And he knew he was on television, and MJF knocked my hat off. Nobody's going to fight you or sue you anymore in these smart fan crowds. So I'm not saying do shit to try to get sued, but when Terry Funk used to get up at a fan's face and back him up, did you ever see anybody laugh at Funk? They backed up. He had that.
They may laugh once he fell or once he did something like, fall off the barricade or tie himself up.
When he was trying, but when he would go to a fan, when he was trying to get a pop out of the people, they would. But when he would go to a specific fan and give them that face, they would back up because he had an aura. And people weren't as smart back then, whether to beat a lawsuits or anything else, but you just couldn't tell for sure. These fans now, with the exception of a Brock Lesnar maybe, they know that they're not going to get punched unless they punch first. So if you go up and confront a guy, just Joe fucking Schmo, Bug Tussle McGee, and they laugh at you, then no, that's not a good thing. I like that he confronts people, points his finger at them, tells them off, even if they're laughing at him at that point. It's still, he's walking by, he's not focusing on one person. But when you focus on one person, and especially if you touch them and they don't get mad, you've not got your desired effect.
But again, too, and a lot of this may just be about the difference in the crowds, he didn't go up to some guy that looks like he's working on a truck or something. He went up to just some wrestling fan and he hit his hat off, and it didn't look like the fan who was going to start any problems. It didn't look like the fan who was going to hit. So he laughed it off.
But if you're going to start something, it should be, because if you do that and the guy swings back, then you can fucking take him over the rail and beat the shit out of him. Of course, everybody will get sued, but at least you might get some heat out of it.
Hey, Tony's got money.
That's true, and everybody knows it. Anyhow, just that's my thing, is I hate when fans laugh at the heel when the heel is obviously trying to piss them off and they ain't going for it, then you've given them the control of the thing. But MJF saved the day because he got right back in the ring and said, "Referee, he pulled my hair." I haven't heard that in so long. I haven't seen that in so long. It was so good to see wrestling back on television again. And then he locked up with Adam Cole and pulled Adam Cole's hair to pull him back into the turnbuckles and gouged his eyes. And of course, because they don't have a play-by-play announcer, they have a fucking basement mark with a sock on his head. Sockface missed all this. He's running through the meaningless plugs of matches we ain't gonna remember in 5 minutes. And he couldn't tell the story because he didn't know what it was, because they haven't ever watched real wrestling in their basement in San Luis Obispo or wherever. But anyway, MJF's a fucking heel, and it's working. And he's working on Adam Cole's left arm. And he's taking then when he gives Adam a hope spot, again, he's taking those picturesque heel bumps, like the Lawler backwards over the top and hits his face on the fucking apron with a scream to boot. So it's not just a bump. It's an active bump with 2 or 3 stages and a payoff. And again, it was so refreshing seeing somebody working like a heel. He's working Adam Cole's left hand and his arm, but he's stomping on it. He's being a prick about it. And I wrote, at 7 minutes in, this was the best AEW television match I've seen this year. Because it's the only one I can think of offhand that's approximated a goddamn wrestling match between a heel and a babyface. But the play-by-play announcer, as I mentioned, couldn't tell the story because MJF was not doing any Japanese moves. Although he did hit, what would you call that? A package pump handle? I don't know what else you'd call it. That movie does.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what else you would call that.
It looks wicked. There's a size and weight limit, I would think, on it, but wicked. Nevertheless.
All right.
Here is I've got to do some constructive criticism now on Adam. And again, I don't know whether this was because he was off for so long or whether he's not got the cardio back, he couldn't train because of the concussions or whatever. But Adam Cole has always been a guy that could sell like an underneath babyface. He was immobile selling. He wasn't selling like if Ricky Morton's selling, where he's rolling over and he's clutching something in pain, and then he's reaching up for the ropes and he's looking up so you can see his facial expression, and the sweat and the tears are coming out his face, or he's trying to pull himself to his feet, or he's stumbling on his knees. He was rolling into places and just laying there. Did you notice that?
I did. I was wondering if you were going to say anything.
And it got more, I won't say worse or more extreme, but it got more noticeable, potentially more prevalent as the match went on. And at one point, because MJF, when he's selling as a heel, he takes the big exaggerated bump or he takes the big exaggerated fall and he's laying there immobile with his arms splayed out. That's a heel selling. That's the babyface hit him with something and he's boom, and he's vulnerable. If the babyface can claw and scratch and fight his way back to his feet where he can come on the offense again. Adam wasn't clawing and scratching and fighting his way to his feet. He was laying there with him. You don't need a babyface to be that immobile selling. He needs to be down in pain, but moving, rolling, searching, reaching, grasping, whatever. And then at the point where Cole hit a super kick and MJF bled from the mouth. And that wasn't bad because it wasn't overdone. It wasn't like he just spit up 2 kidneys. But I think, and maybe to cover up this botch, the referee was Bryce Remsburg. And I used to like Bryce, but as I mentioned, I've seen him referee in the fucking Invisible Man, so fuck him. He was reaching in his pocket before MJF came up to see the blood, so you could see the blood. Whether he had handed MJF his gimmick or whether he was going for those stupid gloves that the referees are wearing now, he tipped it off. Why did he need to be in his fucking pocket? And then to possibly cover it up, he does nothing but reach in his pocket numerous times over the rest of the match to, like, get your hand out of your fucking pocket. That's what you wanted to say.
You get over in AEW having your hands in your pockets.
Well, I've heard that because pocket pool is their favorite recreation, but nevertheless, Adam got a bit of a comeback at that point. They went back and forth. Adam got a few 2 counts. MJF, again, keeping some attention good, even when on defense. They went to the apron of the ring, did a back and forth, and finally MJF got Adam Cole in a tombstone pile driver on the apron, but fell off and sold his knee at the same time, and that was their break spot with both of them down. You know how I feel about the apron, but I will say that in this one, they limited the contrived nature of the back and forth staggering. They did a couple of things and got to the point. And when they went down, it wasn't one guy got up and immediately rolled the other guy in, kick out. They went to the break, and they were in picture, and it was quite a while before MJF got up, and then he grabbed Cole and rolled him back in. So it was finally, by the time that he made a cover, and it was a 2 count, they had both taken so long you could buy it. That was a big spot, but I'm willing to live with that one. And they went 13 minutes after the bell before they went to the break. Now I'm invested in this thing. I've got time in it. I'm hooked. I want to see what's going to happen. I'll sit through the fucking break. Not after 2 minutes, but after 13, I'll hang with it. I think that's a clear line of demarcation. Now you want to see what... I never walk out of movies. I hear people do. If I've gone to a fucking movie, I'm going to sit there till the bitter end just because I'm there. But can you imagine if you went to a fucking movie and went to the bathroom after 4 minutes of the movie, came back 4 minutes later? Would you know what the fuck was going on?
Who's the director?
Well, it depends. M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, no, I have no idea what's going on. Does he make movies still? Whatever happened to that guy?
I think he does, but he only shows them to himself. Anyway, but then, by the way, in that break, when MJF rolled Adam Cole back in, he covered him and got a 2 count because he was trying to win. And they didn't waste anything, big stuff in the break. MJF just healed on Adam's arm. And when they came back, MJF was taunting him and he spit on him. And then Cole came up with a forearm, boom, and rocked MJF, who sold it big, staggered back, and they did a chop and forearm battle. Here's one small tweak. When Adam Cole came up with that forearm, that's where MJF should have just fucking registered with his head and then done the brush-off signal under his chin, like, and chopped Adam and let Adam sell it big. And then let Adam throw a forearm that maybe MJF sells just a little bit more, but then snaps back like, no, that wasn't, and trying to play it off, but it kind of clocked him, and another vicious chop. And then when Cole throws the third one, that's when fucking he goes back and staggers back and then stands up straight and shakes his head like, no, that didn't hurt me either. And then draws back for a chop and drops down to his fucking knee like, oh shit, I'm dizzy. And then Cole starts a comeback. He should sell him gradually bigger, because what happened in that situation, Adam Cole starts fighting back from underneath, and automatically his first forearm rocks MJF back, makes him rubber-legged. But when MJF is chopping the guy that he's been kicking the shit out of, Adam Cole was just bending over, selling his chest, but not rocking, registering, not rubber-legged. It was another shortcut. He used to be more animated with his selling. So I thought that was a little backwards. It should have been, MJF should have built it a little more. And finally, MJF hits the eye poke. And then you'll recognize this, Brian, and I can't believe he's doing this because I see so many of the indie guys doing it. He turns his back completely on Adam Cole, who's standing in front of him. He turns his back on him and then runs to hit the ropes to get momentum. And just a few minutes later, or seconds later, Adam Cole did the same thing. Turned his back on MJF, who's standing right there, and there's only 2 feet in between them. It does not make any sense for a guy, if you're fighting with a guy, does it, Brian, for you to turn your back 180 degrees on him while he's still within arm's length reach of you, and then run to hit the ropes to get momentum to come back in the same place. Does that make sense?
Makes no sense. We see too much of that in wrestling.
And that's the thing. I made a remark of, what was the kid's name? Tyson Dukes is the first time I ever saw anybody do that at a Ring of Honor tryout match, I think in 2006 or whatever. And I said the same thing to him. I said, does that make any sense? Well, I guess not. They all do it. It's like they're turning and suddenly they're running like they're going to, like the gymnastics floor exercise. They're running to get speed to do the round-offs. No. If you fucking chop a guy, hit a guy, whatever, and then you want to run and hit the ropes, then you take 2 steps backpedaling, spin to your fucking left, and run and hit the ropes that are now behind you, but you've gotten away from your opponent, and you're still going to get the same amount of momentum, and it's not going to look so fucking cheesy. Or go to the right. But nevertheless, they did a big kick battle, and then MJF hit him with a great clothesline, and it was a great exchange, but the people cheered the heel winning the exchange by leveling Adam Cole with a clothesline. I'm like, oh, God. Did you see MJF's elbow pad?
I did. I saw what it said on it. Yes.
Vince was right. So again, they're wrestling, and there's a clear difference between the 2 competitors. One guy, even though some of the people are still cheering for the heel, one guy you try to pull for, the other guy's a prick. They do some nice wrestling. Cole gets a crossface. MJF rolls into an armbar. Cole gets an ankle lock. MJF goes into an STF. Cole gets a rope break and gets a big pop. A bigger pop than most people on this program get when they fly through furniture. again, this is where they came to they have, considering the finish, which I'm not going to stooge off yet, for those of you who haven't seen it, but they had to do a big spot, or they felt they had to. So this is where they do their table spot. And again, Cole was selling kind of immobile. I'm wondering if he was blown up, what's going on. But MJF goes and clears off the table at ringside and just rolls Adam onto it and doesn't hit him or kick him, or it's the honor system. Just don't move. And then MJF goes to the top rope and comes off the top with two Adam Cole on the table on the floor with an elbow drop. And the table legs collapsed. The table didn't break in half. The legs collapsed. So not only was that more jarring to everybody involved, because it's not as much of a cushion on the fall, but also you've got a guy that's been off for almost a year with concussions and had multiple concussion issues, and you've just driven him through a table where he didn't fold in the middle. He went back of his head first down to the floor because the leg collapsed. And I know they feel like they need a big spot for this audience, but this match was so good and so much better than the normal fare on this program that this was not only what I thought was a needless risk, but also it took away from the match, because then MJF rolls in and sells. Cole's got to sell, but he has to beat the count at 9.5. But then when he rolled in, he just laid there and told the referee something. And then the referee and MJF went and had what I would consider a long talk for the situation. And then they were back fighting on the apron. So maybe it might have fucked Adam Cole up. I don't know. But it slowed the match down. And it took some of their momentum away. And then when they fought on the apron, Adam gave Max a short German suplex where MJF's, the way he sold it, was the best part. That wasn't dangerous. But I felt like the fans were zoning a bit at this point. The table spot slowed it down. Then whatever the conversations were and everybody's laying around, then they're getting back in action, but they lost some of the oomph they had. They got them back. But, I mean, did you notice that there was, at that point, after that table spot, and with some of that, people were kind of like they weren't jumping up and down anymore, like they were on rope breaks and just anticipation earlier in the match. It slowed it down.
I agree.
Anyway, so back in the ring, MJF was bullying Bryce Remsburg, who, by the way, I mentioned, has refereed matches with the Invisible Man. He should have been spending his time perfecting his craft, because he botched up the only major botched spot in this match was the referee's fault. As MJF is bullying him, Cole rolls up MJF from behind the O'Connor roll-up, and they were going to do a deal where basically MJF kicked Cole off and he went head-to-head with the referee, right? Well, fucking Remsburg goes down to count to the side of him. And if you go back and watch this, as soon as MJF sees the referee on the side of him counting, he's not only telling the guy, but he's waving his hands. You're supposed to be over there. And Remsburg, he goes down for a regular referee count and counts one, and then realizes that he has massively fucked up his position and hops up to his right to crouch and count two, and then obviously jumps up further to the right to be in front of Adam Cole when he gets kicked off, so he and Adam Cole can go head to head. Did you notice that fiasco?
Oh, I noticed that, yes.
So, I mean, I've been critiquing things in terms of pace or momentum, or did it slow something down, or I don't know if I'd have done the table spot because it took away more than it had, or whatever. This is These are tweaks. These are things that I would sit down and talk to guys we were watching tapes to give them fodder to potentially fine-tune their timing on something or whatever. That's criticism. That's going over game films. There was no fucked up botch in this match except for the fucking referee. And he went down. And then MJF got the title belt and came in as Cole standing up. MJF throws the belt to Adam Cole and then falls down to do the old Eddie Guerrero thing. The referee's going to turn see Cole with the belt and disqualify him. But again, the referee gets up, but he's got his face covered because he got hit in the head. So he's covering his eyes like he's playing blind man's bluff. Somebody walk through these things with a more competent referee next time. But nevertheless, the referee gets up and falls back down, which is a brilliant idea for the spot. Execution was and he doesn't see it. So at that point, Adam Cole has the belt and he hits MJF with it and then hits his knee and cover, and the referee counts a long 2, and MJF kicks out. And then they do the deal where Adam said, well, I'll give him another knee, but MJF collapses because he's groggy. So Cole goes for a German suplex, but MJF grabs Remsburg and mule kicks Cole in the balls. And then he pulls out the diamond ring. And we actually, again, praise the Lord, we have a heel that uses foreign objects these days that aren't baseball bats or barbed wire. That's something that you could actually fucking use to just punch somebody. And he gets the ring and he goes to punch Cole, but the referee stops him. And at this point, Adam Cole hits a super kick, which looked great. And then he hits the Panama Sunrise. But now here was the other thing that I would have loved if Adam had kicked it in here to high gear. He hit the super kick. He goes up for the Panama Sunrise. MJF's in position and has to stagger there bent over before Adam does it. But then he hits it, and then he hits his knee. But now there should be a sense of urgency because these people are up. And instead of grabbing MJF and trying to quickly turn him, he's just kind of pulling him over to turn him over to cover him. And I was screaming when I was watching it, faster, faster, to make the turn, to show some urgency on this cover after this series of moves. 1, 2, and the bell rings. Time limit draw. Not only was that they lost the chance to show urgency, but they shit the bed because nobody knew why it should be urgent. They did no time calls throughout the whole match. The announcers never referenced it. You heard nothing in the arena. They don't do time calls in wrestling anymore, do they? Now that I think about it.
They don't, but I don't even think that's necessary. I didn't realize the Challenger, Eliminator, whatever these matches are, were 30-minute time limits.
Well, if you go back, they said it like in the introductions. Everything in WWE doesn't use time limits anymore at all. AEW uses time limits, but they never go to a draw. I don't remember seeing one, unless it's the 60-minute Iron Man, by the nature of it. But in this one, they announced one fall 30-minute, just glossed over it, and never mentioned it again. And that's where they shit the bed. That's what Tony, watching modern wrestling and not knowing how to do this shit. I had this same talk in Ring of Honor when I first went there. I'm going to say it was with Gabe Sapolsky because I was so confused when I saw what I saw. The first time that I saw a draw in Ring of Honor back, 2006, 7 or whatever, they're having the match. The people are loving it. And all of a sudden the bell rings and the people boo like they did here. The people booed it. They were pissed off. And I said, what happened? And I think it was Gabe. It might have been Adam Pearce, but I think it was long enough that it was Gabe. He said, well, the time limit expired. And I said, well, there were no time calls. You know what he said? We don't call time. Because our fans are smart. If we call the time, they'll know it's going to be a draw. The fuck? You don't just call the time when it's going to be a draw. You call the time and everything. Every match should have time calls on a 5-minute basis. And then when you do a draw, people don't get mad. They don't get pissed because you've stolen something from them. They didn't understand it. When you tell them afterwards, they're like, "Oh, bullshit. That wasn't part of the deal."
But again, you're talking to people, I'm assuming with Gabe Sapolsky's a little bit older than me, who grew up whenever you saw that is what it meant, because you didn't see it with every match.
Well, then he wasn't watching enough OVW.
Well, that maybe so.
And just so the fans know, and I know WWE doesn't call times at all, because not only do they not have time limits, but they don't do draws unless it's an Iron Man match or something where the time is stipulated ahead of time. And also it would look too much like sport for their fucking fantasy land. But if AEW wants to be wrestling, every match needs a time limit. And I learned this when I was a 15-year-old ring announcer, for fuck's sake. Every match you call 5-minute increments. If it's a one-fall 20-minute time limit match, on the PA system, house shows, whatever the fuck. 5 minutes expired, 15 minutes remaining in the time limit. 10 minutes expired, 10 minutes remaining. 15 minutes expired, 5 minutes remaining. And then 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and count down from 10. Because if the match is any good at all, then, well, first of all, every match gets those calls, whether they're going to end in a pinfall or a time limit draw, disqualification, or what. You establish it as part of the match. They have a shot clock in basketball. They've got fucking times of quarters in football, and they've got some quantification of time in everything except for baseball. And even then, obviously, there's the change of the offense and defense, blah, blah, blah. With wrestling, it's very simple. The match has a set time limit, and we will apprise the wrestlers and the fans as it is going on. And then what you can do with a good match that's going to a draw is you can build the suspense and the urgency. After it gets past 15, people maybe think, "Oh shit, this might be going to be a draw." When you get to 2 minutes remaining, now the guy's got to kick it in. That's either the time where the heel really tries an all or nothing and misses and gives the babyface a chance to start making a comeback. And now the babyface has under 2 minutes to put this guy away. And then with the 1 minute call, maybe at that point they're going to start the false finishes. And then by the time you get to 30 seconds, maybe they're going into a series of small package, jackknife, roll up, jockeying for position. When you get to 10, 9, 8, 7, now it's like a fucking hand grenade's going to go off. And right then, there's the backslide. 3, backslide, 2, 1, ding, 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 right before the 3 count. Oh, Newman! He almost had him. You're building the urgency and the jeopardy and the wonder of what's going to happen. Or you can just have a good match where the bell rings out of nowhere and kills all the work that the guys did to get the people in it, because all they're going to remember is the fucking shitty taste in their mouth of the rotten finish that they feel ripped off by. Can you imagine how those people would have been reacting if Adam Cole hit that super kick, if they'd have called 1 minute remaining? Cole hits a super kick and the Panama Sunrise and the knee, and he's got to turn him. Now we're under 10 seconds. He's turning him. Cover. 1, 2, ding, ding. Now we knew it was coming. We were cheering for Adam to fucking get the cover before the time runs out. He's going to do it. Shit, he almost did it. Instead of, what the fuck was that? Time limit draw. Fuck you. Wrong kind of heat. People were booing and pissed because it came out of nowhere.
If they did the time calls like you wanted, do you have any problem with the finish then? The way it was done?
No, except Adam still should have been more urgent at the end. It would have even been better with the seconds being counted down. But I know a lot of people are going to say, well, then they're not going to do that because they're going to know every time they go past 15 minutes. No, that's because if you're smart, you do 19-minute and 30-second fucking wins. Or in OVW, I used to do 14:30. Especially on practice shows, give the guys plenty of time in the ring and use that also as an educational moment. At one point, I remember one of the flea market shows we did. I can't remember who was in the ring, but I gave them it was a homework assignment. I said, you're going to go, it's a 15-minute time limit. You're going to go 14:58. See how close you can get the 1, 2, 3 with 2 seconds left. And at the same time as they're getting experience, it educates fans that the match can end at any time. Therefore, even when you get down to the 10-second call, there's still a chance. It's not that fucking hard. And then Adam Cole asked for 5 more minutes meekly. He got the microphone and just said 5 more minutes. And MJF said, fuck off. He didn't say anything. He just rolled out and took the belt. It was a great match. It was a tour de force performance for great TV match. Tour de force performance for MJF. Adam hung with it, but he could have had more fire to him. There's something going on. And they didn't need the big table spot in the middle to risk life and limb just because they weren't doing a big slam bang finish, because it slowed them down. And they needed a finish, but that's where their booker let them down. But the actual in-ring and just MJF showing that you can still work a professional wrestling match and act like a heel and still get it over even in front of that crowd and not use any fucking furniture or all the stupid fucking dives. It was a brilliant piece of television for 35 minutes from the start of the program till when they were out of the ring. And it wasn't like 30 minutes of goddamn WWE, what the fuck's going on here? It was 30 minutes you wanted to see what was going to happen.
And with WWE, it'd be 30 minutes of commercials, too. That's the other problem.
Well, yeah, you'd be 30 minutes deep in the show, and you'd have seen 10 minutes of the match.
No, they gave this match time to breathe, not just in terms of it going 30 minutes, but again, not having a commercial right away. Really good match. I mean, I still stay with everything I've been saying about Adam Cole. I still feel the same way. Doesn't mean he can't have good matches. But when you see him standing next to MJF, one guy looks like he goes to the gym and the other guy doesn't. And they're about the same height.
Well, no, one guy looks like he goes to the gym and the other guy looks like he's been ill for an extended period of time. And something's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know exactly what. I actually just think beyond all this, because again, good match. And I agree with you. It's the MJF show. You know, we don't get to see him wrestle that often. So when you do, you really pay attention. He's great at everything he does. The only thing is, I don't know how many more times I can watch him do the tombstone spot or whatever on the apron and sell his knee. Because I've seen that several times now. But I think the problem is Cole is also being miscast. I think you can't avoid what's unavoidable in a cosmetic industry. So I think you make it a weapon. I think he should be a fucking chicken shit heel. He should be hitting his super kick. He should be doing these things. Don't deny or hide the fact that he looks like he isn't athletic at all. Use that. He cheats. He has a big bodyguard, or he has a big Britt Baker, whatever. He cheats. He's a heel. But I think the other problem is it's a weird babyface role for Adam Cole because people want to root for him. If you watch that reality show, you may find that you like him as a person.
Well, and also the sympathy from coming back from the injury. That's why he can't be a heel right now. The people were happy that he overcame that and came back.
But he first got over, like most good babyface, not most, but like a lot of good babyfaces, he was a good heel first. He got over as a babyface because people had seen him as a great heel for a while, so they were ready to cheer him. But in AEW now, he's just a babyface I think you've used the term milk toast a few times recently. That's my biggest issue. Beyond the physique, I think Adam Cole is being miscast as a babyface, even though they presented him as that on the reality show.
But
again,
anyway.
Use his sizes. That's the thing. If you can't hide it, you can't wear a bodysuit. You can't hide it. Use it. Have babyfaces come out there. This runt cheated. There's no way in the world someone who looks like that can beat me. And then he comes out there and he does a great promo explaining how he did and he will again. As opposed to he's having equal matches or equal fights, or he's on equal ground with the world champion or whoever it may be.
I ain't arguing with you, but I don't think we're going to see it.
But really good. You know what? Beyond Adam Cole here, like I said before, nice to see an MJF match on, I'm about to say free TV, on cable TV, on TV.
Oh, it's free. It's free. We pay for the other channels. We get TNT and TBS for free.